That being said, let me quickly tell you a simple and effective storytelling framework, right? It's called SAR, and it stands for situation, action, and results, right? And what you do is you start telling the situation first, give the background, what the problems are, what the pain points are. And I'm going to rush a little bit because we just have 22 minutes. And then talk what did you do about that, right? Okay, there are problems. What did you do? What initiatives did you take? How did you communicate to the people who were supposed to do things, right? How did you influence them? And then you talk about the outcomes and benefits and try to quantify them, right? So let me give you a couple of examples here, right? One of the examples which I used during my early days of career, right? Not early days of career, early days of product management, right? Whenever I went to an interview, I used this framework because people know storytelling is key to product management, right? And a common question that is asked is, tell me about yourself, right? And I use this framework to start that, right? I told what is the situation. I was working as an engineer. I knew this. I already told you that story, right? And then what did I do? What actions did I take? I I decided that I'm going to pursue product management as a career choice, and I enrolled onto a course. I started studying, and I started applying those learnings from my class to my product. And what happened? People realized the value I bring in, and and they saw that this guy can be a good product owner for our organization, and they gave me a product owner role, right? So I told the situation, what was the dilemma in my career, what action did I take, and what results I got, right? So I use that framework, and product managers are good at identifying, okay, especially the seasoned product managers. When then they see that you are telling a story, they will get it, right? They know that, okay, this guy knows how to communicate. Another example, maybe I'll give a professional example this time, right? So the situation can be that the company is rapidly growing, and we are a customer obsessed company, right? We One of the key metrics we track at the company level is uh, our NPS score. And what happened as the company started growing, a lot of customer cases started coming in, right? I'm just telling the background, and now I'm building the pain point, right? The pain point is number of cases increased. Due to that, our turnaround time reduced, okay? And that resulted in customer satisfaction issues. And that was bringing down our NPS score. So I built the situation, gave the background, pain points. So the situation part is complete, right? Now, what action did I take? We quickly put together a plan that we are going to build a chatbot, because what we saw is most of these queries were repetitive queries which were quite simple and could have been addressed by just redirecting the new users to the respective help pages or documentation, right? We put together a plan, we pitched it to the executives and asked them to prioritize this, and we got it approved, right? That was the action we took, and we built it within a few months. What was the result, right? What happened as a result of that is that the number of customer cases that came to the support team drastically reduced, right? Because most of the queries were being answered by this chatbot, which was just redirecting the users to certain help pages where they were able to self-service the query or the case, right? And the support team was able to focus on the non-trivial cases. And at the end of 1 year, the NPS score went beyond our initial score of by 5 points. I can say, I can quantify saying by 5 points, right? So I told the situation, I told the actions that we took and the results that we achieved. So this is a simple and very effective storytelling framework. And somebody says it resonates with STAR. Yes, STAR stands for situation, tasks, actions, and results, right? So it's the same. And if you see here, right, there is a way in which the story is communicated, and that leads me to the next slide, right? First we tell the why, right? Then we tell how, and then we tell what happened as a part of that. And this is called the concept of golden circle, okay? I don't know how many of you have heard it, but this is one of the fascinating concepts, right? I mean, from the time I came to know about this, I have been just amazed, right? There is a book called Start with Why by Simon Sinek, and I would recommend everybody to grab a copy and read it because it talks about how to communicate and how to influence people, right? So he talks, rather, he says in the book that most good leaders communicate in the same way and they communicate inside out, right? Uh, and he gives examples of Steve Jobs, Martin Luther King, and he also gives examples. I forget the name, but how people inspire others to give their life for a cause, right? And just to give an example, what's happening today, right, in today's world. If you have seen the news recently, the president of Ukraine, right, Zelensky, has inspired the Ukrainian people to fight for their freedom and fight the Russian army, right? Regular citizens. And he used the same thing. He communicated inside out. What do I mean by inside out, right? It's all from here, right? You start with the why. You talk why we do what, why we want to do something, right? And then how do we want to do it and what we do want to do it. This is inside out. And most leaders, be it political leaders or any leaders who inspire and influence people, use this way. They talk about the why, how, and what in this order, inside out. Uh, it's not easy and it takes a lot of practice. Okay. Even I'm not an expert at this. But it's very easy to tell what we do, how we do, and why we do. Probably we don't even know, right? I do have a link of this book at the end of the slide. I'll share that with you guys. So it's very important. People don't realize. In fact, if I ask you over here, do you know why your product exists? Most of you might not know the answer. You might say what it does, how it does, but why is it there in the first place? Many of you might not know the answer. If you know, great. Okay, that's very good. But many of the people just communicate what, how, and why. Okay, and going back to something that I said in the beginning of my session, there is a classic example from 2001 where somebody built a great product, but they did not communicate it properly. Okay, uh, so the company's name was Creative, and they built a 5 GB MP3 player much before Apple's iPod. But the way they communicated the value and marketed it was like this, right? Creative said, we have a 5 GB MP3 player and all that, right? What did Apple say? It said 1,000 songs in your pocket. And that was a message that touched many of them and influenced the buying behavior. In fact, when you start with why, it is directly communicating to the part of the brain that controls your decision making. So you always start with why. It's called the limbic part of the brain. But whenever you start with why, you directly are controlling the decision making behavior, right? Or influencing that. So great book. I'll give the link to that book as well. It's there in the slides. So this is a very useful concept. The same thing is there in SAR also. The SAR framework, which I spoke. Situation is the why. Then you talk about the how, and then you talk about the what. It's communicating inside out, and it's quite powerful. It's not easy, but practice will get you there.